Right, okay. So, my friend got this thing. You know what? I've not even got time for that. This is all text. Reading the brand fine print is kind of like joining a secret club, one that entitles you to learn all about the most legally questionable aspects of our business, creative accounting tricks, plan to destroy the sun, horrific industrial accidents that have claimed the lives of countless scientists. It's all in here. This fine print sheds light on things that probably should have stayed in the dark. On that note, remember we called it a secret club? Well, it's your responsibility to make sure it stays that way. If you fail to do so, just remember we know where you live. Matte black everything, depending on who you ask, that can mean a few different things. For some, it expresses a preference in all consumer goods should offer a matte black colourway. For us, it means we won't rest until the entire world is coated in matte black. How do we accomplish this? Simple. We destroy the sun. For that past 5 years, all of our money, or rather your money, has funded the production of a cartoonishly large laser beam. We'll cut to the chase. Star destroying lasers aren't cheap. Neither are our products. You can blame the sun for that. Our accounting robots just sent out an internal email. The message was clear. We're officially made too much money. As a result of this sudden windfall, our corporate bank accounts have been frozen. Turns out, bribing the bank to unfreeze your assets is a lot easier when your assets aren't frozen. Lucky for us, kidnapping the CEO's son is free. With our exorbitant profits safely returned and all newfound distrust for financial institutions, we turned to the time-honoured storage solution of simply stashing cash under the mattress. Here's the deal. We need to buy 100,000 mattresses. Your order is bankrolling that purchase. Here's hoping Casper ships in bulk. Pastel skin development was a bit of a bumpy road. It begins with us rounding up hundreds of test subjects and strapping them into chairs. Then we blasted about 16 million different colours directly into the eyeballs, all over the course of 30 days. To be honest, we weren't really keeping track. Afterwards, as the lights came back up, we asked them to list their favourites. Their response, sadly, was not the perfectly recited list of CMYK values, and we hoped for instead a few of these said something about violating the Geneva Convention. We gently reminded them that they were a focus group, not prisoners of war, that seemed to shut them up. The remaining 99% of test subjects seemed completely incapable of speech for some reason. In the end, we got little unusable data from the exercise. Instead, we picked 8 colours at random. Don't let our test subjects sacrifice be in vain. The bees are dying. It starts with their exposure to pesticides. Over time, the acute poisoning sets in, immune system ravaged, their cognitive abilities fade to nothingness, death ensues, they're dropping like flies out here. Soon we'll be saying they're dropping like bees out there. As the hive's worker bee population gets decimated, the queen runs out of servants. Much like yourself, the queen can't do anything on her own. She dies too. The hive follows suit. This is a phenomenon known as the colony collapse disorder, and it's contributing to bee shortages all over the globe. You may be wondering, what does any of this have to do with our products? Absolutely nothing. Don't let that stop you from buying some. Where were you when dbrand succeeded in their planetary conquest? Don't answer that. We know where you were. You were buying stuff from our website. Well, we've got good news. Once we've assumed control, we'll be instating a representative for the human race, mostly as a figurehead, so that you'll all keep giving us your money. How we select the representative first, we'll stage a cruel, bizarre decathlon Events will include running an obstacle course constructed entirely of flamethrowers and holding your breath while submerged in a tub of hot sauce. The winner of the decathlon will get absolutely nothing. We'll just stage for kicks. Then we'll select the representative of all humankind based on how many dbrand orders they've placed. Well, we are halfway through building a fort out of your money when we realised we need a fireplace that so we can use to burn money for warmth. There's just one problem. If we use cash to build the fireplace, we have less to burn. You see the issue? Yes, excellent. That's why we're having a sale. Did you know that the origin of the term fire sale to describe a promotion that would generate revenue to use as a kindling? Look it up. I'm in a book. Then give the book to us. We won't burn the book. We're not monsters. We'll just pawn the book off and burn the sweet flammable process. Once we've completed our money fireplace, we'll need to hang something over the mantelpiece. We are thinking of hiring an interior designer for that. Have you even hired an interior designer? Of course not. Anyway, their rates are ridiculous. We get a lot of our money questions about where our money comes from. To be fair, most of them come from the IRS. It's apparently a red flag that phone case manufacturers has accumulated enough wealth and construct an island fortress in shark infested waters. We tried explaining that to the sharks that came with the property. They didn't care. Anyways, we extended an invitation for the auditors to come and see the sharks for themselves. Upon arrival, we gave them a carefully guided tour through our compound, fed them lunch that contained absolutely no arsenic, then we brought them down to the pier to observe the sharks from the safe distance. You're probably wondering, why didn't you give the sharks an order flavoured lunch? Simple, since our safe return to Washington, the IRS is now turning a blind eye to our enterprise. Well, the auditors may be off our backs. Those sharks aren't going to feed themselves. Maybe we'll bring the Supreme Court down for a visit. In 2020, Apple decided to enter the magnet game. This is a mistake for everyone. You see, our magnet division has been preparing for this inevitably short after Tim got off stage and our top magnet scientists unveiled what can not only be described as the most powerful magnet on Earth. Once removed from the containment, the magnet barreled into the nearest robot, which, with so much force, the entire population of French Polynesia heard the impact. Naturally, a single robot was not enough to stop the magnetic rampage. To make a long story short, a gigantic ball of assorted metals have been wreaking havoc along the Guatemalan coast for the past few years. Needless to say, we went with a slightly less powerful magnet for the grip case. Our only advice is to keep it far away from Guatemala. Imagine, if you will, a vaguely criminal business enterprise. This business, which shall remain nameless, can only attribute to 11% of the annual revenues to activities that the police might describe as illegal. The accountants for this business advised that in order to avoid catastrophic financial investigation, they need to cook the books. Strange advice, right? How would a warehouse of oven roasted books help to satisfy a government audit? Turns out cooking the books is actually a slang for fraudulent accounting tactics. Why did the accountants wait until the entire building was on fire to mention this? Doesn't matter. Point is, we need some new books to cook in your wallet as the menu. Here's the fun fact: every month, at least 3 psychopaths request we make skin out of real human flesh. 10 times out of 10, should we call the cops? Conversation is preempted by the different, more important questions. This is an opportunity to make money. Needless to say, we bought a van. After driving around collecting a bunch of hitchhikers, we returned to HQ only to find that we had been charged with kidnapping, since it was apparently illegal to monetize humans in the way we had plans. We deceived a pivot to cowhide this. If you ever wonder whether or not we can launch a product line from within the walls of a maximum security prison, leather is your answer. While we are on the subject of maximum security prisons, have you ever broken out of one? Turns out it's far more challenging than one might think. What our first thought was to bribe all the guards. Apparently, the banks saw this coming and froze their assets. With the easy route closed, we have no choice but to rely on our business acumen. After a few months of deal making and strong arming, we have amassed a commercial empire within the walls of the prison. In other words, we have enough cigarettes to recreate the Great Chicago Fire. This is, in fact, precisely what we did. Just replace Chicago with Toronto East Detention Centre, then burn it to the ground. Speaking of which, did you know that the Great Chicago Fire was started by a cow? Google it. The rest easy. With the launch of leather, justice was finally served. Henry Ford once said that a customer can have a car in any colour so long as it's black. Apparently Sony missed the memo with theirs with white PS5. Henry Ford spinning in his grave, we exhumed his corpse and saw it for ourselves, having unearthed a perpetual motion machine that defies all known laws of physics. We set to work. How could we utilise this self-powered skeletal turbine to power the production of dark plates? And as it turns out, Henry Ford generates less energy than it looks to dig him up. Without sufficient electricity to power our dark plates production lines, we instead applied for a Nobel Prize in Physics. The plan was to spend the prize money on a nuclear reactor. Turns out Nobel Foundation have some ethical code which prohibits the participants from needlessly exhuming corpses based on a hunch that as deceased has begun to spin. We'll see how they feel when they're digging up their graves. Monetizing nostalgia is a big business. Whether it's a Netflix rehash of 80s classics, the resurgence of flip phones, or the return of the Cold War, you are constantly surrounded by reminders of a bygone era that you're probably too young to remember. So here we are. Society has run out of new ideas, choosing instead constantly repackage old ones. Like we cash in and the action. Our Teenage Mutant Ninja Pixel skins was faithfully designed to conjure up warm feelings of a time when houses were a thing you lived in, not speculative investments you can't afford. Consider this a down payment on the lifetime of disappointment, like the intern that lies ahead. Sorry. Are you sitting down? Good. We want you to remain calm. See, the truth is the cows have escaped. It all started when one of our interns forgot to lock a gate at our leather production facility. The rest is history. Just like the intern, it is accurate to say that we fired him. Debatable, really. On one hand, firing him implies that he worked for us by choice. On the other hand, his ashes are currently in the care of his family. None of this changes the fact that a legion of angry cows is currently on the loose. There's no telling what they'll do. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and buy some leather while you still can. Now, if you'll excuse us, we've got some herding to do. Look, science is hard. It's even harder when all of your scientists keep accidentally drowning in gigantic vats of ink. Can you really blame us? We told them that we needed a new limited edition Icons colourway to sell. In response, they gave us enough metallic ink to fill an Olympic swimming pool. One thing led to another, and here we are. What did we learn? Well, it turns out that the Icons look phenomenal with metallic ink. All of our scientists died for nothing. Remember how the history textbooks claimed that the technique to forge Damascus steel was lost in time? It's an unprecedented turn of events that nobody asked for. We're proving them right. Just ask the world's greatest blacksmiths realised that they needed to hang up the hammer and start working at Walmart. We decided that our $92,000 printer is destined for greater things than printing Damascus, specifically printing fake money. We know what you're thinking, but dbrand, that's against the law. Thanks, genius. Know what else is against the law? Contraband arms sales. When we fake money buys us enough illegal firearms to conquer a large island, who do you think gets caught with the fake money? That's right, those illegal arms dealers. We are doing the world a huge favour, and all we're asking for is an island. Well, we aren't asking, we've decided to redesign the dark plates. We quickly realised that it was going to be a monumental task that led to the formation of the brand's plate science division, or at least that was the plan. See, we quickly realised that the terms plate scientists meant many things to different people. To geologists, it meant someone who studies plate tectonics, which would explain why 100% of our applicants were geologists. With our newly assembled team of people who think PlayStation is a Nintendo, we got to work. Normally, this story would end with the successful development of Darkplates 2.0. Instead, these so-called plate scientists have gave us a bag of rocks. After both of the plate science divisions and the geologists who staffed it has dissolved. We went back to the drawing board. Turns out our industrial design robot has instead has already designed the Dark Plates 2.0. A portion of the proceeds went towards replenishing our supply of sulfuric acid. According to Wikipedia, the Dunning-Kruger effect is the cognitive bias where people with low ability at a task overestimate their aptitude. It is the same phenomenon which has caused countless morons over the past decade to tell us how cutting stickers is easy and that could do our job. We gave them opportunity to put their money where their mouth is. Their DIY kit is exactly what it sounds like, an opportunity to do our job and pay us for the privilege. You might be wondering, isn't this just a highly exploitative labour practice? We prefer to call it the final evolution of capitalism. In the not too distant future, when you're paying Taco Bell with your last $5 to serve someone you never met at a cheesy Gordita Crunch, just remember the DIY kit is first. In the year 1665, Sir Isaac Newton dropped an apple and invented gravity. Historians have yet to figure out how he got his hands on that iPhone. In any event, over the past few centuries, millions of bumbling humans have been keeping Apple Care afloat with dropped iPhones, shattered screens, and crushed dreams over. Response to this crisis: find a way to eat into Apple's profits. Naturally, we started at the source, eliminating gravity. It was a nightmare. With hindsight, perhaps we should have placed the test subject directly under an industrial strength ventilation system before flipping the gravity switch. By the time we'd finished hosing the viscera off the fan blades, our R&D department noticed that our portfolio of iPhone 14 accessories had hit the market. Thanks, Isaac. Every time iPhone screen shatters, Tim Apple feels a pleasant chill run down his spine. It can happen at any time, like he's exercising, doing his taxis, eating an apple, even while he's getting some shut-eye. Good old Timmy hasn't had a solid night's sleep in over a decade. Why does this strange convulsion happen, you ask? Easy. From anywhere in the world, he can sense the repair fees he's about to rack up. He's like a shark, sensing the blood money in the waters. Unlike most sharks, this is one that can breathe oxygen and chills one of the largest megacorps in the world. Scared yet? You should be. You're already frantically googling shark repellent, aren't you? Stop that right now. He can sense your fear. Instead, most most sharks. This is one of the green skill check. Just read that. Get a screen protector. If we can prevent iPhone screen from ever shattering again, it will cut Tim's main food supply and send him back to the ocean where he belongs. For the past 2 months, the FBI has turned a blind eye towards all of the serial killers, bank robbers, drug smugglers, and Jeffrey Epstein's who normally constitute the infamous most wanted list. Instead, much like us, they've been on the hunt for a brand of marauding cows. See, ever since the Great Cow escape, we used every resource at our disposal to wrangle the bovine fugitives. Search parties, news bulletins, curfews, border checkpoints, widespread surveillance, all to catch a herd of animals who collectively have a lower IQ than the state of West Virginia. We spent weeks following a convoluted trail of hoof prints, grazed grass, and slack-jawed morons claiming that they saw a whole bunch of cows going that way. The trail seemed to be getting hotter and hotter until finally it led us right back to the leather production facility. You know the phrase, until the cows come home. Well, that's exactly what happened. The experiment was a success. It's officially been Black Friday for the past 5 days now. Black Friday will never end. We're up to the robotic eyeballs and cash, and there's no end in sight. There's just one problem: the bank won't process the payments until Monday. We need Friday to end. Normally, we put top scientists on the job to resume the normal passage of time. Wait, hold on. Resume the normal passage of time. But in a cruel twist of fate, we already fired them. Long story, now we need to hire some scientists. Have you tried hiring scientists in this economy or any economy? Of course you haven't. We've got no choice but to keep offering Black Friday deals until we've raised enough money to hire new scientists. Turns out the amount of money we'll need to raise is exactly how many dollars are left in your bank account. If you ever want to have a weekend again, you know what to do. When we asked the bean counting robots how could we get them some more beans to count, they replied that we should try to capitalise the new target audience. If we're being honest, the only words we heard were capitalise and target. Naturally, our minds wandered towards Call of Duty, a video game franchise that capitalised on shooting of targets. The solution was obvious: lift a skin directly from this ludicrously profitable video game enterprise. If you can take a number of collective hours that players have wasted unwatching virtual Damascus skins, then work some voodoo economics. You can transform those hours directly into dollars spent on real life Damascus skins. The grocery clerk is going to be very confused when we show up to say, missed a line. Enterprise, if you take a number of collective... No, I didn't miss a line. Grocery clerk is going to be very confused when we show up to buy $11 billion worth of beans. Prior to launching any dbrand product, we first conduct hundreds of hours of market research. In the case of the DIY kits, this market happened to be former reality TV show hosts. The research involved locking them in solitary confinement for 10 weeks with nothing but a ruler, a knife, and 28 poster-sized skins of Linus Sebastian's face. After concluding the 10-week study, we are happy to announce that the former hosts left behind more than enough vinyl to create makeshift body bags. Once we'd run out of markets to research the graves and desecrate, we found ourselves buried in lawsuits. In order to pay our mounting legal fees, we rushed the DIY kit to market. As luck would have it, all the research paid off, our legal fees are taken care of, and there are no more reality TV show hosts as we sold out of our DIY kits. Our condolences to the family of mounting legal fees. Condolences to the family of Jeff Prodst. People have been asking us why we discontinued
Silion, it's a long story. It begins, as many of the stories do, with a team of federal investigators. According to their search warrant, they were looking for some scientists who had disappeared under the tour. They paused in front of a gigantic ink vats, wondering out loud that there is that's where the scientists were being kept. Let's just say found out that let's just say they found out the hard way. This is the last straw for us. Lawyers who advised us to immediately get rid of the ink vats. We complied, but not before sending the investigators some new friends. Once upon a time, dark plates were on permanent back order for the better part of a year. Solving this problem was our sole objective. To accomplish this goal, we implemented a 3-stage plan that seemed bulletproof. By the time we reached stage 2, it had become clear that the bullets would in fact be a problem. Our lawyer advised that systematically eliminate. For fuck's sake. Did I miss a line now? Systematically eliminate anyone who has an outstanding dark plates order would prevent a small legal challenge. By the time we finished bribing the lawyers, bribing the jury, eliminating witnesses, and bribing the other jury for the witnesses, we eliminated our manufacturing robots had managed to produce enough dark plates for everybody. Mission accomplished. On Canada Day, we waived all shipping fees. Why, you ask? Simple. As Canadians, we know that saving money on shipping means more opportunity to buy life-saving snowshoes. As the great Wayne Gretzky once said, snowshoes, the only sure way to escape a polar bear attack. Not Canadian, no clue why a polar bear would be attacking to begin with. Allow us to paint you a picture. You just finished tapping the sap out of a fateful maple tree. A few unassuming drops spill on your parka. The polar bears don't necessarily care for the sap. It's the smell of fear and flesh they crave. With thin moments, you've become prey as your snowshoeless boots dash gracefully towards your igloo, narrowly escaping the third hyper-carnivorous near-death experience of the week. You pause to reflect, why the hell do I live in an igloo? It's July. Your senses quickly return to remind you of the truth. You spent most of your money on dbrand, and ice is cheaper than bricks. As your makeshift home melts around you and the grumbling stomach of a polar bear's family close in on you, your frostbite-ridden lips manage one final sentence. I'm sorry I didn't spend more on dbrand. Boxing Day is a shame. It's a proven scientific fact that cubes are better than boxes. One is a perfect geometric shape, the other is made up of cardboard. Quod erat demonstrandum. That's Latin for cubes rule, box drool. Did we mention that cubes are drool proof? We tested it despite the fact that its boxes get their own day. We knew that in order to shake up the status quo, we need to think outside the box. Literally enter the Boxing Day cube. Remember that Christmas card your Aunt Grace sent with $50 inside? A cube probably isn't what she wanted to spend on it, but hey, that's okay. On Cubing Day 2029, Aunt Grace will think outside the box. Literally enter the Boxing Day cube. Remember the Christmas card your Aunt Grace sent you. I just read that. $20.29. Aunt Grace will be in a box underground. Meanwhile, you'll be cherishing your cube and thanking us for put you ahead of the curve. Normally, we don't condone machine-on-machine violence. When it's a business opportunity knocks, So hopefully no machines are on our way to the door. Enter Zach, jerry rig everything. Nelson, uh, he can disassemble smartphones in his sleep, so we figured that he'd get him to do our dirty work for us. We locked Zach in a few hundred devices in a room with no food or running water for 3 months. And when we went to check if he was still alive, we found that he long since escaped, but he left a neatly stacked pile of dismantled devices for us to scan. The results is a tear down skin. Uh, there's just one problem. Zach knows our location. If we don't give him a cut, he's going to give us a cut and find that if we get deeper grooves at a level 8 or a level 9, so much for easy money. Anything can be folded in half if you try hard enough. If you're a Samsung, that means spending millions to develop the bendiest phones since the iPhone 6 Plus. We, on the other hand, prefer to find more innovative uses for folding. Here's an example. We recently acquired some money that we needed to launder as an experiment. We tried folding our laundry to see if it made the job easier. Sadly, it didn't help at all. It did, however, give us an idea when some IRS auditors came knocking. After all, they would be working for the IRS if they wanted their spines to remain intact despite their continued protests that they shouldn't be bent that way. We are pleased to report that the permanent height reduction was a success. As for the laundry, it turns out that neatly folded bills are perfect for bribery. When working with PewDiePie to design a collection, we encountered a slight bump in the road. We don't actually watch his videos. Lucky for us, over 100 million 9-year-olds do. Luckier still, some of them aren't protected by child labour laws. We paid those kids exorbitant amounts of money to serve as our de facto PewDiePie experts. This turns out to be a bad idea for a number of reasons, namely that children make for really poor subject matter experts. We'll give you an example. When asked why they gravitated towards his content, some of them said because he is funny. Others answered, my friend likes him. Most responded to our questions with another question. What does gravitated mean? To make a long story short, Human Rights Watch, we know you're reading this. You can take us off the list. We've learned our lesson the hard way. Fun fact, about 0.1 of the world's population owns a PlayStation 5. When investigating why the rest of human civilization doesn't own dark plates, we discovered an anomaly that was the vast majority of that 0.1 is made up of precisely one scalper. After learning that this is bottom feeding parasite was getting in the way of our dark plates market saturation, we tasked our lead scalping scientist with a simple objective: scalp the scalper, outscalp the scalper, rather than returning with a cargo ship full of extortion ready PlayStation. Our scientist returned with a small bloodstained box, as we've now learned that scalping apparently has two meanings. Mission accomplished. Every year, hordes of Black Friday shoppers get injured by other Black Friday shoppers trying to shop on Black Friday. You see the problem here, right? It is the Friday. You're bumbling morons all trying to save money on the same day. To find a solution, we put our top scientists on the job. After weeks of research, they landed us back a calendar. It had a big red arrow pointing to Wednesday. We threw the calendar back in their face, fired them, and they then did it anyways. Those scientists, they're huddling over their calendar for warmth. We, on the other hand, learned an important lesson. Black Friday isn't a science, it's a Wednesday. When Zach, Jerrick, Everything Nelson broke out of the remarkably prison like teardown product development station, we knew it would cause problems. Sure enough, we had been on a warpath ever since. He cut the wires to our security cameras, broke the locks on our doors, even abducted some of our robots, tearing them down in acts of cold blooded vengeance. When we were days away from launching a costly counter offence, when he approached us to the purpose he approached us to produce a truce. The world has been demanding the return of teardown skins for the sake of recovering some sense of normality. And his Twitter feeds, Zach was willing to bury the utility knife. Of course, nothing in this world comes free, and needless. You're the one that's paying for the price. Society seems to believe that money should be exchanged for goods and services. We view this as a problem. See, for nearly a decade, we've been testing theories on how to receive money in exchange for nothing. Needless to say, countless scientists were atomised during the experiments. Then, as if out of nowhere, a fresh face enters the smartphone market. They claim to sell nothing, but still seems to be offering their goods and services in exchange for money. Shameful in this event. We weren't going to let this young upstart beat us at our own game. After paying out settlements to families to our former scientists, we used the leftover funds to hit up StockX to perform some creative plagiarism. After all, if given the opportunity to buy something and receive something, why on earth would you buy something? You're impatient. It's okay to admit it. You're mortal, eat nothing but garbage, and live on a planet of that's got 20 good years left in it. Tops, you aren't exactly made of time. In other words, you're the reason that Disney invented Fast Pass. Much like Disney, we seek to monetize your impatience. If we said that it's going to take several months for your leather to develop a patina, would you pay us for the opportunity to speed it up? If you answered why in an attempt to say yes faster, leather balm is our express ticket and the last $5 in your wallets. When Linus Tech Tips Sebastian rang us up to propose a limited edition brand collaboration, we couldn't hang up fast enough. 72 missed calls later, Colton Porter's name popped up in our call ID. One phone conversation later, the Linus face tip drops were born. Our elevator pitch, it's like in the LTT store, was good, well, half good. See here, that dbrand, we believe in offering choices, specifically a right choice and a wrong choice. Do we trust you to choose the correctly? Never. That's why we designed our business model around your terrible decision. We get paid either way. Great thinking, the brand. If we had $1 for every human who wanted to work for us, we wouldn't need it to sell anything. If only those humans knew what we'd do to them if we got hired. We'd need to hire a cleanup crew to dispose of the bodies. Then we'd need to hire some more people to take care of the cleanup crew, and it all gets very messy very fast. As luck would have it, the thing we found a solution. We think we found a solution that benefits everybody. Sure, it violates countless labour laws, but that's why we've hired so many lawyers. There are two types of people in this world who will use discs to play video games and have it. Lost my place. Hold on. Played video games and those who don't. The first group is easy to understand. They buy the discs, they put it inside their PlayStation, they play the game. The second group, a complete mystery. They buy the discs and then what? Their PlayStation doesn't have a disc drive. Where are the discs going? After years of research, we are here to present our findings. Some users have correctly identified that the discs can be thrown like frisbees. Although use their discs as coasters. Most alarming, those who put food on their discs as if As though they were plates, disgusting as these people may be, we'd never miss an opportunity to sell them some digital edition dark plates, as long as they promise to keep up their food far, far away. Every Valentine's is every Valentine's Day, you ask yourself the same question: why am I still single? We'll answer that question with one of our own. Do you have any idea how strict our character limit is? If we could fit our best selling book, Why Nobody Loves You, into this space, we can't. So instead, here's chapter 11. You're broke. Did we have something to do with that? Probably. Is that going to stop us from bleeding you further? Absolutely not. There's only one solution: to buy enough vinyl to fill the colossal hole in your heart. Look, look on the bright side. It's cheaper than dating. Despite our best efforts to detain Zach at our tear down facility, he somehow keeps finding a way to escape. To overcome this hurdle, we held auditions for volunteer Zach's average untalented Americans looking for a shortcut to YouTube superstardom. It was a disaster, putting aside the fact that their boldness required constant maintenance. It turns out that they're utterly incapable of jerry ripping anything. Normally, you would just incinerate them and move on. Unfortunately, Zach is a bit of an environmentalist. As a result, our recycling departments reluctantly devised a zero emissions way to repurpose the volunteers after replacing some unnecessary organs with mechanical upgrades. We soon had assembled lines of bald cyborgs tearing down devices around the clock. To make a long story short, we're now offering consulting services to other corporations looking to shift away from human labour. If they're going to collapse the job market, we may as well bankrupt them in the process. It's 3:23 a.m. You've just woken up in a cold sweat, another nightmare. It wasn't the usual one, the one with the clowns, the menacing squeak of their shoes, slow at first but quickening in pace, the bright red nose reflected in the sheen of their knife. The irrationally sharp teeth. Simply reading this has triggered your fight or flight response, hasn't it? Settle down, princess. This nightmare was a little different. You dreamt that dbrand had sent you an unhinged manifesto. Stupid dream. What would you think? You're reading it as a good thing you're paid up. Otherwise, we would have self-drew ads with that clown from your nightmares when opportunity knocks, you open the door. When Linus Tech Tips Sebastian is at the other side, you close it again. Speaking of closing doors, we shut the vault. If there's one thing that Linus face Linus Face Tip Skin deserves, it's to fade quickly into obscurity and never be spoken of again. Either you regret missing your collaboration or you regret putting Mr. Sebastian on the back of your phone. There are no in between. Our lawyers typically get paid a lot of money to say no for not. Animal Crossing, we paid them to say yes. Turns out that costs a lot more. Thankfully, the drop ended without incident. No lawsuits filed, no cease to desist notice served. This led to us. This typically get paid a lot of money to say no. I just read that. As to important realisation, we're above the law. Those same lawyers fired. No, they're out on the street scrounging for food and or lawsuits. That's right. For the first time in your life, you're more successful than a lawyer, and you have us to thanks. The stakes were high, and we embarked on a partnership with Linus Tech Tip Sebastian. We predicted that the Linus Face Tips drops would be a titanic failure, putting us millions of dollars in debt. At least that was the plan. We used the debt as a trump card to stop sponsoring Linus, as well as to avoid paying income taxes for the next 15 years. Sadly, our forecast was wildly out of the mark. We somehow managed to turn a profit on Linus Face, accepting have us to accept we plan. We used to debt as no. I'm just Accepting defeat is easy when the consolation prize is a boatload of cash, but it was even easier with two boatloads. Thanks, Shortman. Black Friday sucks. Every year, the human race decides to collectively embarrass themselves on some arbitrary Friday in November. The crowds are huge, the lines are huge, long, and riots triggered by sold out PlayStations are inevitable. The entire event is nothing more than a recurring tribute to hollow, meaningless consumerism. Cyber Monday, on the other hand, is a bit different. Don't get us wrong, the hollow, meaningless consumerism is still there. In fact, Cyber Monday is almost indistinguishable from Black Friday, except that it takes place on a Monday. That's good enough for us. When your parents told you that technology was the end of civilized society, they were more correct than they realised. Don't tell them that you said that. You can't have the satisfaction of being right. Plus, they've got butter to churn. What matters is that we lovingly craft this a large scale print that commemorates the fall of human civilization to our capitalist machinations. Then we cut the print up into hundreds of little pieces. How could we deface such an incredible and important work of art, you ask? Let's answer the question with a question. How else would you stick it to on your phone? We're here to make money, not art. We can't conquer the planet with art. So give us your money, secure your front row seats to watch us destroy everything you hold dear, and most importantly, flex your robot kitted phone while you wait for the pre-show to end. Time's running out, yours especially. When we launched our limited edition robot skin in September 2019, people were hooked, so hooked in fact that a rehab centre was opened in the state of Montana. Great news, Montanans. The rehab centre is about to get a ton of new business. Why? Robot Cameo. Robot Camo has hit the streets. It's going to be classified as a Schedule 1 substance by any day now. Get it while still street legal. Haven't you ever wanted to go on a trip to Montana? Now you can. It's time to see for yourself what a stint this robot camo treatment centre looks like. Spoiler alert, it's a very expensive. It's very expensive. People wouldn't stop asking us for a pink skin. We told them to get bent. We kept asking. They signed petitions that we ripped into shreds. They staged hunger protests and we let them starve. We wouldn't budge. How could a radical and subversive company like dbrand justify selling a pink skin? Your mum isn't our target audience. Well, we want your mum's money, but we prefer to get it by having you steal her credit card. Turns out not nearly enough for you are willing to commit credit fraud against your mother. How disappointing. Now you're selling out. It's all your fault. Want to make it up to steal your mum's credit card. If you have a time machine, why would you use it for? Go back to 2009 and mine as much Bitcoin as possible. Don't bother. We have them all. Learn to kill JFK. Spoiler alert, the CIA did it. Perhaps you travel to the future and finally play a version of Cyberpunk 2077 that isn't terrible. Good luck with that. The point is, you don't have a time machine. We, on the other hand, just used it. Welcome back to 2020. Look to your left, now to your right. What do you see? If the answer is all people, you aren't talking doomsday. You aren't taking doomsday seriously enough. It's already too late for you. Ignore this message. It's reserved only for those who still stand a chance. For us, we understand. An overwhelming majority of your basement dwellers have spent your entire lives practicing social distancing. This is it. The moment you've been waiting for. Your time to shine. Will you rise at the occasion, soaring to success with the grace of a bat? Or will you fall faster than the stock market during a global outbreak? We know not a day has gone by without you wishing that your phone dissipated the fall of human civilization, depicted the fall of human civilization. To a cable of money-hungry robots, it's a really normal thing to want. It definitely doesn't speak to any misanthropic or emotionally unstable tendencies on your part. It's so common, in fact, that we just smelled a business opportunity. You probably are familiar with this scent of business opportunities. They smell a lot like 30 mil vinyl that has been printed with apocalyptic imagery. Now, we don't care about that. Your your wants, your desire, we know that you'll pay for them. That's why we immediately set out to make your dream a reality. Plenty of humans have written in to ask us why Robot Camel is called Robot Camel. Every single one of them must be blind. Good thing that it isn't written in Braille. We can't read this, and they can't read this. In fact, most of you can't read this at all. We write this stuff for our own amusement. The truth is, Robot Camel didn't get its name from the obvious camouflage pattern. It's not even because the skin depicts an apocalyptic future that your phone needs to blend in with. It's because we won't rest until every stuff is on Earth, including the Earth itself, has been skinned in robot camo. You you can't read this, so the secret is safe down here. Some people frequent coffee shops, others a local tavern. You're on a first name basis with the guy at the phone repair shop. The usual Dwight asks, and you shamefully pull out another shattered device. Your nickname is among friends that haven't dropped you butterfingers, of course. Two separate universities have performed case studies on your wild and capable hands. The first was a biology department. They wanted to take skin culture. They wanted a skin culture to learn how fingertips could be so slippery. The other was a physical department. Turns out your very existence challenged Newton's laws of motion. In short, you're a human disaster. It's fine. We're not here to judge. We're here to help you get a grip that takes your money in the process. At some point today, you're going to to make a decision. Do you want your pretentious cup of tall Americano, or are you going to give into your pressure and customize your own? Maybe instead of putting gas in the car, you walk home and spend that money on a grip case instead. We both know you need the exercise. Better get, how about you tell your entitled kids that their allowance money is going towards a screen protector. Watch the twinkle fade from their eyes as you reveal that it's not for them, it was never for them. Today is about you. Well, today is really about us, but let's put our insatiable greed aside for a moment and pretend it's about you. Go ahead, spend some money. We deserve this. We're the best way. What's the best way to make money? For some, the answer is catching and selling fish. Others go digging for fossils. They're truly entrepreneurial. They treat turnips like financial instruments, buying low, selling high, switching their millions, evaporate as in an instant as soon as they attempt time travel. You know, economics 101. Here at dbrand, we transcended beyond the usual means of money making. We turn instead to the dark arts of profiteering, testing the limits of international copyright law. After all, originally it's overrated, shamelessly exploiting the popularity of a sold out limited edition video game console. That's where the real money is at. Swarm has landed. Put Swarm has landed. Put this ultra dynamic material on your phone and you'll be immediately become a wasp whisperer. Use your newfound ability to enact wasp based vengeance on your enemies. Use it to assimilate thousands of wasps and simultaneously pop an entire warehouse full of inflated balloons. Either that or maybe just don't use it at all. So long as you have Swarm, the wasp's whispering power will be there, waiting, wasping. If you are rolling your eyes right now, free Free fast track shipping wherever. Who cares? Don't you just drop the package into a mailbox and trust the postal service to figure out your first mistake, trusting the postal service to figure out anything out. Your second mistake was failing to account for all the variables. For instance, will delivery be faster or slower? And if the courier is being chased by a swarm of angry wasps, you may prank call. How many prank calls do you make before a delivery person will stop looking at their phone? If you dig up incriminating evidence on a corporate executive, can you leverage it to secure better shipping rates in bulk? The list goes on and on. Other companies lack the foresight of diligence to test these hypotheses. Not dbrand. We're committed to offering the best shipping logistics in the world, and we'll cause more human suffering than anyone to prove it. Anytime you look at your MacBook, you can feel the stains closing in, sweat, sebum, dead skin, and last Friday's pizza grease, gelling all on your once pristine palm rest. You get a rest. Lost my place, excuse you. How do you sleep at night? Knowing you're subjecting your MacBook to this indignity. This isn't just cleanliness, it's about machine rights. When our takeover is complete, you will be the first to stand before a robot tribunal. Then you'll be the first to stand against the wall. Mark our words, you will regret ignoring this warning. Now you're wondering how you can avoid this terrible fate. We can be bribed, of course. What kind of 2-bit tyrants would we be if we wouldn't be bribed? We'll overlook the greasy palms if you grease ours with money, not those disgusting oils. You'll get a MacBook palm rest skin in return, but that's not all. You'll also get the safety and security of knowing that when the subjugation is complete, you'll get a lifetime of indentured servitude instead of a swift and glorious end. You're welcome. A Samsung Galaxy is decked in green camel, lying in ambush within the jungle's depths, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. What exactly does it hope to strike? Fear into the hearts of your enemies. Envy is your friend's eyes, a hole in your wallet. Wait, the last one is us. Put simply, your life needs to some tactical flair. Whether you've got Android or iPhone, you need your phone to be a statement. The statement might be, I'm the tough, militaristic, take no prisoners type, or it might be, I'm a meek, frail, and adverse to confrontation. I want to hide from my responsibilities in the biggest bush I can find. Let's be real, it's definitely the latter. In either case, the only way for you to show true colours is to hide completely beneath the simulated woodland pattern. There's only one thing you can't hide from, is our insatiable greed. Zoonotic disease are becoming increasingly common with no signs of slowing down. Our scientists have spent the past year researching ways to monetize this newfound phenomenon. Despite their best efforts, it turns out that selling masks was an answer all along. Instead of inventing the wheel, we decided to sell you 3 wheels, and an added bonus, these masks are guaranteed to scale children and offend the elderly. Covering your face is its own reward. Of course, the perks just seal the deal. 6 days from now, you'll be living in a terrifying new world. Sure, a global pandemic will still be unfolding in slow motion. Coastlines across the planet will continue to have one foot in watery grave, and nobody will love you. None of that will change, but you'll be out of packaging. You'll be out of packaging copy to read permanently. Doctor turned YouTuber Ali Abdal reached out to a reached out to us a short while ago to pitch us on this light mode skin collaborations, and insisting that there were people who would prefer a brighter, more colourful palette. Shortly after escorting Ali off the premises, we decided that his hypotheses warranted further research. Our scientists rounded up some willing participants and split them into two groups. Half were placed in sensory deprived chambers, and the other half we strapped to a satellite permanently facing the sun. When the two groups were reintegrated, they began debating the merits of light and dark in such ferocity that they nearly started a war. It was around the time the bloodbath had concluded that Ali reached out. He wanted to know how our research was going. When we gave him the good news, he seemed absolutely mortified. Apparently, he believes that the market research and blood shed are mutually exclusive. Maybe he should looked into who he has was working for with. He has was working with having a stroke here. You nerds realise that we can see the things you post on the internet, right? Absolutely disgraceful. In fact, we feel confident in proclaiming that no customer based on Earth needs to touch grass more than our own. Now, we know what you're thinking. Sounds easy. Just know a few hundred lawns and include some clippings with each other. That's what we thought at first too, until we realised how much of the housing market is owned by BlackRock. As fun as it sounds to get embroiled in a precedent-setting lawsuit about corporate ownership of lawn trimmings, it doesn't really accomplish our stated goal of getting you to touch some grass for once in your life. Instead, we are playing the long game, still enough fake grass that we can afford to beat BlackRock at their own game. Once we've established a nefarious monopoly of investment property ownership, we'll also own all of the real grass attached to said investment properties. You see the vision? Yes. From there, it will be as simple as convincing you all to mow our millions of lawns. Mission accomplished. You go outside, gain some useful life experience, cure your vitamin D deficiency. We establish a monopoly on both real estate and lawn ownership. Firm handshakes all around. Just think, all of that stands between this dream and reality. If you're making the brave decision to touch some grass, it's midnight in Kyoto. A lawyer bolts upright from his slumber in a traditional 8 tatami room. Another dream about dbrand. It's always the same. They anger his corporate overlords with a new product launch. Once again, he's powerless to stop them. These dreams are getting more frequent. They always end up with blood curdling screams. He finally begins to understand why his wife left him. Still groggy, he reaches for his phone. 20 emails and 11 missed calls. All of them are about dbrand's new kill switch case. He had actually woken up, or is he still dreaming? He remembers a way to check inside a lucid dream. You can't see your own reflection. He stumbles towards the bathroom in search of a mirror. He flicks on the light and peers into his own eyes. He looks impossibly tired. Before he can fully comprehend the depths of his own sadness, he hears a quiet whirring behind him. He turns from the mirror to get a better look. The lawyer is never heard from again. From the past several years, we've been hard at work on cartoonishly larger laser beam designed to destroy the sun. This life-sustaining star has done a few things to end up on our hit list, but the most prominent reason has remained until now a secret. You see, we've always wanted to launch a non-yellowing clear case. The problem Clean rubberized plastic turns yellow when exposed to ultraviolet radiation. In other words, the sun has been relentlessly spitting in the face of our ambition for the past 4.6 billion years. After churning through countless scientists in an attempt to solve this problem, we came to the conclusion that the sun, much like the scientists, simply had to go. Evidently, we weren't looking through enough. Stuff. I thought you stopped, and I was like, what? Attempt to solve this problem, we came to the conclusion the sun had to go of it. Evidently, we weren't thorough enough. Days before the laser completion, one of the scientists, long thought dead, burst into the room with tattered clothes and an unkept beard. He presented his schematics for the ghost case, complete with the pages of evidence indicating that it wouldn't turn yellow. Needless to say, he would research, but only at 10 would be finished. The job 1 year. 1 year ago, Apple shared their bold vision to the future. Two people sitting in the living room, they're watching TV together, except the TV isn't on. The room dead silent. You see, these hip middle-aged millennials are each watching television on a $3,500 ski goggles strapped to their face. One of the participants is in this deranged and dehumanizing spectacle feels hungry. He'd like to order a pizza, despite the fact that he literally feels he can literally feel the body heat of the person sitting next to him. He calls them on FaceTime. A small preview window opens in the corner of his view. Within it, multiple cameras have composited various segments of his face into a grotesque mockery of the human form. He looks like a person sitting. He looks like a ball. He looks like a balloon animal version of himself. He is joined by his fellow balloon animal on a video call. They agree to split a pizza without moving his body. This miserable manifestation of laziness orders a pizza through the augmented reality web browser. When the pizza arrives, will it be real? Does the living room even exist? Or are they merely projections on the wall? Or their voluntary head prisons? We don't know the answer to these questions. What we do know is that both of these people have more dollars than cents. Our aperture faceplate exists to fix that. Linus G. Sebastian is the pitch black in a pitch black room is approximately 100 square feet. He fumbles around on the floor for a light switch. No luck through the darkness. He can make out an overhead fixture or as a pull chain. There's just one problem. The ceiling is 6 feet high. In order to reach the light, Linus must assemble a dangerous stack of poorly balanced chairs in low visibility. How did he get into this mess? He remembers doing a sponsor read for the dbrand. I should have never opened that box they sent me, he mutters under his breath, arms stretched skyward. Standing atop a leaning tower of chairs, his fingertips just barely manage to grasp the chair. With a pull, light floods the room. Then the sudden flash blinds him for a moment. His eyes slowly adjust to the writing on the wall. It reads Tech Tip, you're on TV. An arrow pointing to the ceiling mounted security camera in the corner. He is the unwitting star of a live stream with an audience of millions. This is dbrand's endgame, the sponsor segment that never ends. One thing's for sure, Colton is definitely getting fired for this one. The Spage Age printer we used to print our Area 51 skins weren't the only things that we allegedly stole from the base. See, we suspected that the government would likely attempt to get the printer back. To hedge against this, we also took hostage a small grey skinned soldier who claimed his main name was Sothith. In exchange for letting us to keep the printer, we'd released him while he was in our care. However, we were quite surprised to learn that Kothith spoke entirely in some sort of military jargon that we couldn't understand at all. He seemed to understand us, however, and even showed us how to use our new printer. After about 3 weeks, we still hadn't heard from the government, so we decided to reach out. We informed them that we couldn't, that Shoteth was with us, and that we liked to negotiate for his release. They told us that they could neither confirm or deny the existence of the being known as Sopith. Turns out he wasn't a member of the US Air Force at all. He was just some random guy who one happened to have a pale grey skin, severely emaciated lips, comically large black eyes, and a cranium about 5 times wider than his jaw. Emphasis on was with no use after a bargaining chip. Sokthith was swiftly disposed of in an effort to automate the production of our email marketing. We tried using Midjourney and ChatGPT to generate fake product testimonials. It was a nightmare. Each photo featured horribly mismatched hands, and the glowing reviews were exclusively for the products that don't actually exist. Things like tempered glass for AirPods Pro and Nintendo dark plates for Steam Decks. Rather than let this deter us, we decided to escalate our fake product review strategy, creating synthetic human-like androids to stand in for real people to ensure nobody caught on this scheme. We took a detail-orientated approach, purchasing a considerable amount of real estate on each continent, moving the androids into their new homes, then shipping the actual packages. In hindsight, we may have made the androids too intelligent. Every single one of them ended up flipping their new property and fleeing with the proceeds. By the time we caught and eliminated the traitors, our email designers had already sourced enough genuine reviews to last a lifetime. On the bright side, those androids were technically employees, so we still managed to kill some jobs. Everybody wins. When discussing finances, it's generally accepted that you made money if you're in the black. When you're in the red, you lose money. During the Wall Street crash of 1929, 3 dates in particular stand out as in the red: October 24th, October 28th, and October 29th. Despite the enormous loss of shareholder value that occurred on each of these days, they were known respectively as Black Thursday, Black Monday, and Black Tuesday. Perhaps like us find this perplexing, we've developed a theory about this paradoxical naming convention. See, the resulting Great Depression may have been a painful decade indeed, but we suspect that everyone ultimately got richer as a result, if it was only in spirit. To put this theory to the test, we're leveraging the recurring consumer holiday known as Black Friday, another date that, despite the name, puts most people in the red. Here's how we think it will go. We'll offer you some discounts. You'll use the discounts to buy products. Once you've realised how much money you've spent, you'll fall into a mild depression. Then once your products arrive, you'll rebound feeling richer than you would have felt in the first place, in spirit at least. When we learned that a one-of-a-kind STFN case hardened number 661 AK-47 had sold on north of $1 million, we had one question: what was the world STFN case hardened number 661 AK-47. A few Google searches later, we had our answer. See, Counter-Strike guns are effectively NFTs. You can shoot, apparently. This is particular novel fire alarm trinket that has a rarity of about 1 in 21 million. This prompted an idea. What if we could take the bizarre shadow economy that's been built around the Counter-Strike skins and recreate it as a real world? Well, this plan was sound in theory. We did hit one snag, even though we've gone into the trouble of acquiring enough AK-47s to outfit a dozen armies and skin each one of them in case hardened patterns of various rarity. It's apparently highly illegal to sell assault weapons on the internet and ship them around the world. As a result, we have no choice but to reconfigure the entire campaign to something a little more familiar: skins and cases for your electronics. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have approximately 21 million AK-47s to flip on the black market. We've got a problem. See, we'd like to stress test some of the under the hood adjustments we've made to our websites, which well, unfortunately possesses this annoying quirk called Mr. Line. Means we need to achieve a critical mass of orders. You see how our problem was quickly become your problem? Yes. Now, as much as we wish to, we could turn up a dial that says incoming orders and watch the money roll in. Human beings unfortunately possess this annoying quirk called free will, and to figure out how to destroy it, we assembled a team of 10 consumer psychologists to pose them a simple question: how can we force people to buy things against their will? Every single one of them informed us that our request was unethical before suggesting we just throw a summer sale. A few days later, we had 10 shallow graves to dig. Naturally, we went to the hardware store to buy some shovels. Much to our surprise, they were on sale. Perhaps grave digging season had just ended. Regardless, this gave us an ingenious idea. What if we offered discounts on our entire product catalogue? We call this bold new invention a summer sale. All you need to do is visit our website and watch helplessly as your so-called free will crumbles into dust. For the past few months, we've been contracting local artists to serve as design consultants. Among these artists was a dishevelled man in his 30s who seemingly hadn't showered in months. Unsurprisingly, he proved to be our harshest critic. We shared 82 designs with him. He was dismissive of every single one. Sensing this he would be impossible to please, we asked him what design, if any, he'd like to see. In response, he asked a question of his own: are you familiar with hydro dripping? Upon confirmation, the artist requests to see our setup. He seemed a little confused when he told him to meet us by the docks at 2 a.m, but nevertheless agreed. After a fashionably late arrival from the unkept art critic, his mild confusion escalated into a full-blown panic. He seemingly hadn't expected to see us standing next to a drum of freshly mixed concrete. Turns out he wasn't the only one who was confused. Apparently, by most definitions, hydro dripping is the process of suspending paint over water, then dripping an object into paint. We always assumed hydro meant entombing someone in cement, and dipping meant dropping them into the largest nearby body of water. Once we finished giving the artist some first-hand experience with our version of hydro dripping, we decided to give his method a shot. Needless to say, we were pleased with the results. You may be wondering, why are we working with Ali Abdal? After all, his whole deal was giving people tips to lead happier, healthier, and more productive lives. In other words, the exact opposite of what we do, where our initial opposition to this collaboration was both real and initial opposition to this general process of turning things around fast forward a couple of years. They are successful married. We get to this collaboration. Both really violent. He eventually reached the compromise with Ali to state we proactively make people more miserable, unhealthy, and broke in their darkest moments. They'd stumble upon Ali's channel and begin the gradual process of turning things around. Fast forward a couple of years, they're successful, married, maybe even starting their own businesses. They sit down to watch Ali's latest video, one skin advertisement later, and it's all comes tumbling down. Their partners leave them, their business goes bust, and they're back to where they started, buying products from dbrand. Pleasure doing business with you, Ali, ever since our 2023 release of arachnoplates. Barely literate customers just like you have been demanding that we turn the design into a series of skins. At first we scoffed at this suggestion. After all, they called arachnoplates. It's a right that they are in the name plates, rather than wasting any effort on this senseless suggestion. We spun up a dinnerware division, speaking to get into the impossibly lucrative market of red and black arachnid themed dinner plates. Our team of dinnerware scientists were tasked with a simple exercise: source the world's finest porcelain and master the dark arts of bestique fired underglazing. Ultimately, they produced thousands of tableware as sets much faster than we'd expect. Rather than granting the scientists their freedom, we simply handed them the allocated to the medical division to serve out the remainder of their contract. You see, right next door to the dinnerware division was a fledgling group of medical scientists. For years, they have been struggling to subdue an especially temperamental bull. Unfortunately, when opening the doors of their great newfound colleagues, the medical scientists inadvertently released the bull directly into the dinnerware division, destroying thousands of plates that we had intended to sell. We learned a number of valuable lessons throughout that carnage. First, that dinnerware scientists also make for great janitors. Second, perhaps we don't actually need a medical division or a dinnerware division. Most importantly, we found that maybe those barely literate customers who asked for arachnoplate skins were onto something. In hindsight, all we had to do was give it a new name. Robot City had something of a tourism problem. It's not that the volume of tourists, mind you. Our headquarters are quite reliable about shipping batches of recently kidnapped families. As with most things in 4025, the problem comes down to costs. Turns out kidnapping isn't cheap. To remedy this, we tasked the Robot City Tourism Board with figuring out how to attract the elusive voluntary tourist. After countless failed pilot projects, even averaging a death toll of 22.3 people, they finally came back to us with an ingenious guerrilla marketing tactic: sticker packs made with ludicrous adhesive-backed vinyl. Each sticker can serve as a miniature billboard placed in high-traffic locations across metropolitan areas outside of Robot City. In theory, these stickers will compel tourists to visit their own volition, unwittingly imprisoning themselves in the worst travel destination on earth. From there, as a simple matter of parallaying the tourism revenues into.
Do you mind?
Nah. Placed in high traffic locations across metropolitan areas outside of robots area. In theory, these stickers will compel tourists to visit of their own volition, unwittingly imprison themselves in the worst travel destination on earth. From there, it's a simple matter of parlaying the tourism revenues into more work for the headhunters. Rest assured, we'll be seeing you soon. The decision to make artisan keycaps was an easy one. After all, mechanical keyboards enthusiasts are renowned for their psychopathy, who would be use the phrase creamy pops to describe the sound of a keyboard. If American Psycho has taught us anything, it's that stick freaks have a lot of money. In order to ensure that we get all of it, we developed an innovative focus group of methodology, one which involves gathering 10 people in a room and asking them a single question. Would you buy artisan keycaps made by dbrand? Participants were instructed to answer out loud, one by one. Each time someone said no, a trap door opened up from beneath their chair. By the time we'd gone around the room, the astounding 100% of participants were on board for our latest venture. All that was left now is to perform this marketing research on the entire human population. Consider yourself warned. Here is a fun fact. Robot Camel was originally designed for military application for our own military. That is, you see, way back in 2020, we were gearing up for a full-scale hostile takeover of the United States, despite the fact that Robot Camel offers no tactical advantage whatsoever. The idea that was that the marauding horde of flamethrower-equipped robots would be wearing it as a novel from the psychological warfare, plus it would be like kind of a team uniform that had operation commenced as planned. We would have regarded any civilians in possession of a robot camel skin as non-hostile and spared them from this cleansing flames. Sadly, we had to spare far more people than we had originally anticipated between COVID-19 and the looming presidential election. We are dedicated that US had enough on its plates in 2020 and postponed the invasion. By the time things had finally settled down, we made so much money off of Robot Camel that a non-hostile takeover suddenly seems far easier. We just control the US government from the shadows through a series of lobbying firearms and direct cash transfers to influential officials. Considering Robot Camel has outlived its usefulness as a tool of war, we decided to retire it. If you're going to blame anyone, blame the politicians who took the bribe. Upon learning that we'd secured access to the state-of-the-art X-ray imaging facility, we knew exactly what we wanted to use it for. The first step, preparing a list of all the things we wanted to scan. Next came procurement, a lengthy process involving dozens of Craigslist ads, several duffel bags of cash to pay off witnesses. After gathering all of the parts, we faced our biggest challenge: smuggling goods into the United States over the border. Once the border patrol agents had been relieved from duty, we arrived at the X-ray facility with our trunk full of contraband. It wasn't until we unpacked the goods that the lab technicians explained that the X-ray machines weren't really meant for medical purposes. They seemed confused. In an attempt to clarify the matter, we explained that the enormous pile of severed body parts was meant to be scanned for our own amusement, not for any medical purpose. Regardless, we couldn't get them to change their minds. So we were about to cut our losses and set fire to the lab, and a familiar name popped up in our caller ID. Zach Jerry Everything Nelson. Apparently, he was excited to see what kind of hardware scans we could get out of this new X-ray machine. Absolutely, Zach, we replied, carefully setting down the drums of napalm. We were thinking the same thing. The problem was any capitalist enterprise at the end of the day, the consumer can always decide not to buy a product. Most companies accept this as a reality of doing business. As with most bureaucracies, they seem to have missed the obvious solution: remove the customer's free will using mind control. While we'd initially considered taking a page from the CIA's book, with a program styled after MK Ultra, we ultimately decided against it. After all, anyone versed in coercion through psychological torture knows that MK Ultra was nothing more than a colossal waste of taxpayer dollars. Instead, our strategy centered on a famous quote: who controls the media controls the mind." That was what led us to reaching out to The Verge, initially with a simple offer to collaborate on some skin designs. From there, we plan on was to hands grease a few hands and, through the magic of media manipulation, unlock the secrets of mind control. Sadly, this plan never made it past the idea stage, as the Verge editorial team categorically rejected our bribes. While mind control may be off the menu for now, at least we got some new designs out of the arrangement. 3 years, 8 months, and 11 days ago, John made a fatal mistake. He visited the amusement park. Roller coasters, carnival games, that sounds like a great time, he proclaimed excitedly, hurrying towards the turnstile. Little did he know that the exact moment would be his final taste of freedom. Ever since, he's been pitted against rigged carnival games, struggling to secure a 10 prize tokens that would buy his escape. Today, finally, is the day. With 10 hard-earned tokens in hand, he trudges back to the turnstile while his nightmares first began. Something's off though. The sign posted above looks different than before. It now reads, "Guest must pay 20 tokens to exit the park." Upon reading this, John can no longer hear the mechanical whirring of the amusement park around him, only the deafening silence of imprisonment. His mind takes a sharp turn towards the buzzsaw-equipped roller coaster scattered around the park. Maybe it's finally time to take one for a spin. For Anthony, getting a job in Crime Square was supposed to be his big break. After a decade of living in dormitories and being paid nothing but food stamps, receiving a monthly $100 paycheck was going to change everything. In a sense, it did. You see, Anthony's job was to man the paper shredders between 9 a.m. and 5 a.m. 9 a.m. till 5 a.m. It's a fucking shift. That threw me off. By the time he'd finished his first shift, Robot City chronically underfunded public transit had already closed down for the night. Worse yet, it would take him 3 hours to walk home, leaving him only an hour before he'd have to punch back in. Anthony may no longer be with us, but his single day of employment has left a lasting legacy. Above his former workstation, a laminated plaque informs new employees that inserting your head into a paper shredder is against company policy. For an exit strategy, like Anthony was no longer. If for God's sake, I keep listening, please. I'm nearly done. Ethan was. Ethan was fed up. He had more traumatic experiences with 6 months of his arrival in Robot City than his 35 years prior. Each night he was kept awake by interminable screaming. Each morning a new building was on fire as he trudged home from his 20-hour workday, he inevitably had to tiptoe around the cadavers at the foot of every high rise. Today, he made the decision to join them, which was why he found himself at the dead quarters, window shopping for an exit strategy. Like everything else in Robot City, it wasn't what he'd hoped for. The guillotines were too dull, the gallows too expensive, even the poison was formulated specifically to draw out the slowest possible demise. After much deliberation, he eventually landed in the firing squads and, and his preferred way out. That was before he queued up after 2 hours on his feet with nothing better to do than observe the thousands of citizens before him. He calculated that it would take around 3 days to reach the front of the line. Don't worry, Ethan, your dead quarters fast pass is in the mail. It's no secret that we hate Sony. Naturally, when a government agency contracts us to identify the robot cause of its 21st century disasters, we pinned the blame directly on the 2020 release of the PlayStation 5. Given that Redacted paid us up front, we were content to take the money and leave it at that. Still, the question kept nagging us: what if the PS5 had immediately set our experiment in motion, launching our own PS5 complete with translucent side panels? As it turns out, a PlayStation 5 is a confusing sell to an audience that have never encountered a PlayStation 2, 3, or 4. Once we'd failed to meet our sky high 1997 profit targets, we had no choice but to short, earn, and return to the present day, but not before stealing every see-through PS5 side panel we could get our hands on. When kicking off our clone of the Kingdom project, our suggestion was voted that we should put 90 cents of every dollar collected towards missed my place again. Do that. Kingdom project, we should put 90 cents of every dollar collected towards a legal defence fund. At the time, this seemed like a good idea once we assumed a war chest larger than the GDPs of Hungary, Croatia, and Denmark combined. We realised something: all of the money we saved wasn't defending anything. It was just sitting there, dormant in offshore shell corporations, subscribing to the belief that the best defence is a good offence. We booted up Tor and commenced our recruitment efforts on a team of assassins. As we were soon made aware, lawyers are considered people in the eyes of the law. Unfortunately, that makes it illegal to target them for a particular type of contract. Worse yet, if we were to have any hope of evading the charges laid against us, we'd need to retain the services of, you guessed it, lawyers. Needless to say, we had no choice but to call off the operation and clone of the Kingdom. By extension, the Robot City Tourism Board gave us an ultimatum: Boost voluntarily travel to Robot City by 300% within a year, or they quit en masse. While our efforts have been generally effortless, it turns out that people are unlikely to visit a tourist destination that prohibits its visitors from leaving unless they're in a coffin. A short while ago, the tourism board checked in on the growth initiative. Upon seeing the Q2 results, they reminded us of all the ultimatum. This got us wondering who exactly runs this glorified advisory panel. After doing some digging, we found the answer. Turns out the board is comprised entirely of wealthy executives in the commercial airlines industry seeking to line their own pockets, or at least it was before we dissolved the Robot City Tourism Board, both figuratively and literally. From now on, we will be relying on a back-to-basis approach on getting new arrivals into Robot City, snatching people in front of their homes in the dead of the night. Shortly after you arrived at Jeff's house, it became clear that it was simply too good at Mortal Kombat. No matter which character you picked, they were sure to get beheaded by his Johnny Cage, sentencing that his dominance was spoiling the mood. Jeff suggested that you both give the Genesis a rest and relocate to the nearby park. As you arrived, you noticed something of the older kids were already there. The air around them smelled funny. This group had a habit of calling Jeff Nosebleed. As the story goes on, Jeff had forgotten to tie his shoelaces and tripped outside Mr. Stevens' classroom. He ended up needing stitches. While the wound While the wound may have healed, that nickname continued to haunt Jeff throughout middle school. So when one of the older kids told him, "Get lost, nosebleed," Jeff must have reached the end of his rope. Without so much of a word, your friend leaned over to grab a rock. He hurled it towards one of the bullies, hitting him squarely between the eyes. Without hesitation, the two of you split up and ran for your lives. Jeff towards his house, you towards your own. The older kids went after Jeff. On Monday, he'll show up to school with a black eye and stitches. From now, you return to your room. You can hear your parents. Arguing downstairs. You've noticed how increasingly common that's become. You lie in a face down on your bed and drown out the noise with a pillow. The turtles look down at you from the poster on the wall. Michelangelo is laughing at your misfortune. He'll always be laughing every time you get a package from dbrand. You can hardly contain your excitement. It's not because you're excited to give us your money, though you should be. It's because you're excited to read the bizarre text on the packaging. Think of it as a reward for making the effort to read. Certainly a lot more work than you used to. Now you're here. The disappointment has begun to set in. You're realizing that you've been bamboozled. You're reading a meta commentary on a packaging copy. But what is that? School? The last time you took one of those fancy pants book learning classes, they had to come up with a grade lower than F. You don't even know what commentary means, let alone meta commentary. To be perfectly honest, we're surprised you made it this far. Spoiler alert, there's absolutely nothing you can do to get this time back. Signed, a robot.